What happens when your plan to save money on the farm goes completely wrong? That's what happened to us this past week, and I want to share that with you and talk about what we were planning to do, what went wrong with what we did, but how we turned it around. So the original intent of this video was about making hay, asking and answering the question, is it better to make your own hay or should you buy in hay from another farm? Now this video was going to cover the cost of the equipment, the time you would spend to make the hay, and just the labor and everything that would go into it versus how much you would pay getting hay in. Again, of course, this is very dependent on the equipment, but our thinking on this and having bought in hay for a number of years and knowing how much we spent on the hay was that getting the equipment at a decent price would eventually offset the cost of buying in the hay, and we'd be getting hay at a whole lot cheaper price. We spent in 2023 about $8,000 on hay. I just happened to luck out. A farmer down the road in his 70s was getting out of farming, and he had a hay baler that made 4x4 bales, which was perfect for my 65 horsepower tractor. It's a New Holland 7050, BR 7050, and it had a minimum horsepower requirement of 35 horsepower, so we were perfect there. He also had a tedder and a rake, so that's basically the complete setup. And I was able to get this for a really good price, and considering that we had spent $8,000 just last year on hay, my thought was, okay, we will buy this hay equipment, and in a year and a half it would pay for itself in the amount of hay that we'd be able to get off this farm. I'm fortunate as well to have neighbors who have about 15 acres on the river. You can actually see it behind me here. We're right on the river. If you look behind me, that's the river right there. And that's essentially just to say that it's super fertile land. I mean, we grow crazy hay here. I don't have to do a lot. I've dug 3-foot holes here to put in fence posts, and it's nothing but brown dirt all the way down. So it grows some pretty amazing hay, right? It's a lot of fescue and clover, but also Johnson grass at certain times of the year, and just different things will come up. So that was our thought. We've got these two things working for us. Let's make some hay and show the differences, in between bringing hay in and making hay. So we got our equipment here. I've never hayed before, so it did require some time reading manuals, trying to learn about it. I already had a cutter, which is a crone. It's an 8-foot disc mower. And I already had that instead of a bush hog just because we're on the river. That crone allows me to get along the banks really closely without worrying about getting my tractor too close to the banks. Some of these banks are 10 to 15 foot high drops down to the river. And again, I don't want to get my tractor anywhere near there. So having the crone, it hangs off to the side, the disc mower, and allows me to essentially get the bank without getting my tractor that close to the riverbank. So that was the first thing. We cut hay. That all went well. And I've used the cutter, like I say, instead of a bush hog, that's what I use as a disc mower for everything. And that went well. Cutting went good. Got it all laid down. And then it became time to use the tedder. What the tedder is basically got these large circular wheels with tines hanging down. And when you cut with a crone or a disc mower or a sickle mower, essentially you have really long hay and it just lays it down. You have long strips and they're just laid down flat. These can be bunched up to a degree. So what the tedder does is come and it just basically kicks it out the back and shakes everything up, gets air underneath it. It helps to allow it to dry faster. And it allows you also to make more even windrows when you go to rake because everything's been dispersed in an essentially uniform fashion. So we did the tedder, that worked great. First time ever using that for 15 acres. Took me about an hour and a half to ted that. Looked amazing, it went off without a hitch, like I said, worked perfectly. Then it came time to rake. Rake is an implement on the back that has these huge round tines that rather than spread the hay out, they form a V in the back and kind of pull all the hay into the middle into what's called a windrow, just a large pile of hay. And it makes these large lines of it following whatever pattern you drive. What that does essentially set it up for the baler to be able to roll over these lines and just collect all the hay. The rake had a few hiccups starting off with that, and I think part of it was just I cut a little late and there's just a lot of hay on the ground. But I would be haying, it'd be making a perfect windrow, and then this big snowball would form behind, and to let the blades up, pull forward a little bit, and then put the twines back down and then keep going. And we worked that out mostly. Probably the last half of cutting, I didn't have any of those. So I'm sure it was some operator error, my speed. Also, the last part, recognizing when that was getting close to happening and just stopping, slowing down, pulling the tines up and sort of resetting. But we got everything windrowed. That went great. Now we did have one little hiccup where it rained We had this freak rain shower show up during our raking, and it rained probably about 10 minutes, and it was a good downpour. It's freaking pouring. It's cold. Feels good a little bit, but... And that kind of threw us off. If you're making hay, it has to be dry when you bale it. The bacterial breakdown and things that happen inside a hay bale can actually heat the hay bale up enough, if there's enough moisture in there, to actually spontaneous combust.
Spontaneous combustion, however, totally real.
To catch fire. And the last thing you want is moist hay in a barn or somewhere where if that would catch fire, then a lot of other things catch fire. So we waited about 2 days. That set us off a little bit because, again, being a part-time farmer, I've got a job, I've got 3 kids we homeschool, and running the business side of the farm, meaning just getting orders together, inventorying, keeping up with the website. It's a lot. Losing 1 day is a ton, but losing 2 days is just, I could find other things to do within those 2 days, but this is just kind of like when you have a lot going on, you need to just get boxes checked. You need to get them off your plate, get them out of your mind so you can free up mental real estate to worry about other stuff. So that was a little bit of a hiccup and a little distressing because I knew I had a shift coming up and we had other things coming up that I wouldn't be able to do things the following week. So waited about 2 days. Anyways, that went good. What we had raked, we went over and raked again, essentially flipped it, and then got the rest raked. Everything was raked, and I had the half of that day left to bale and a full next day to bale. They were calling for perfect weather, no precipitation.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
Everything was working great. Got the baler out. Never used a baler before. First time using it. Got a few moving parts. A little intimidating, honestly. Read the manual front and back a number of times, just figuring out how to do the control box, how you tie the bale, how you eject the bale, and just making the bale, whether you need to go straight, swerve. Got all that and got it hooked up, and everything actually started going great. Got about 14 bales done. Some of them were a little lopsided, and I'm sure that just will get better as we keep making hay. But after about bale 14, was going along and heard this loud pop, and I thought I broke a shear bolt. Shear bolts are things they have in balers. I have them in my disc mower where if something binds up or something happens, a lot of times it'll just break this bolt rather than breaking a chain or something major. And so then you're just replacing a bolt, not a big deal. I heard a loud pop and opened up the side where the main chain system is that controls the rollers and everything, and found the chain was off of 2 of the sprockets, which, okay, not a big deal. I can get a chain back on there. But one of the sprockets was actually bent, and it had bent the frame of the hay baler as well. Another sprocket was out from where it should have been setting in, and it was frustrating. I actually did a video on it, and it's weird because when I talk to you guys in a video, I'm projecting my voice. I'm trying to be energetic. But when I'm doing a video, my voice gets louder. So it's hard to be frustrated in a video because you want to do those things, but you can't. It's just weird and one of those things with, I guess, making videos. But long story short, it was very demoralizing. It's one of those things that, quitting farming ran through my mind. I wondered if this is worth the time that I'm putting into this to do it. And part of the reason wasn't so much the hay baler breaking. It was all because of the hay baler breaking, but it was because I'd already put so much labor into cutting, into raking, into tedding, and then just all the research because a lot of it was new to me. The second thing was knowing how much money I had laying on the ground here, knowing how much money we spent last year. This was the payoff. The baler, you've got all the steps: cutting, tedding, raking, and the baler, that's your payoff for all that labor. And just getting to that point, getting 15 bales out and knowing that you did all that and there's no payoff. And not only that, but it goes the other way, and that now you have a bill that you're going to have to pay to fix this. Knowing too that pretty much after it happened, I knew I had to get, my only 2 options were to get somebody else out here to bale it up, which can be a little difficult in that everybody's baling this time of year. The other option would be to just cut it all out, spread it out, and that's what we did last year. We did chop and drop, as I call it, where we just cut everything and we let it drop. And that goes back to adding fertilizer. The plants will pull up nutrients from the soil. So by cutting those plants and leaving them, they decompose. Those nutrients go back into the soil, which helps subsequent growth. And that was the other thought. But again, that's leaving $4,000 on the ground here, especially at a time when we need the money, as a farm. So that's kind of what went through my mind. And it was one of those moments where I questioned whether I wanted to do this anymore. I think if you're a farmer, you've probably had those moments, and you know, after every moment you find a solution, and you know, I love this, I'm not going to do anything else. But it's still at that moment, you know, you really question why you're doing it. And it was just a scary moment. You know, we've had moments like this on the farm where we've bought a bunch of chickens and had everything penciled out, how much these chickens would bring, a normal death rate, yada, yada, yada. And for whatever reason, they die. We had half of a chicken tractor die the day before we were supposed to go to the processor. It was a 97, it was one of the hottest days. This is about 3 years ago. And we had actually went out and even sprayed earlier, made sure they had water, and they were big. It was super hot and humid, and we just had a bunch drop dead the day before processing. And it was enough that it skewed our numbers to where I wasn't even sure we were going to make a profit. And after pulling those chicken tractors around for 8 weeks, and you know, you just get frustrated because you put so much work in, and you're right at the payoff and you lose it. Obviously there was no recouping that. We just had to take the birds in we had, and now if it's usually over 95, we'll do the water in the morning. We'll go out and spray them down midday. They hate it, they get mad, but at least they're wet and it cools them down. And then we'll make sure their water's again full at night. Sometimes spray them again in the evening before, and it's just, again, they hate it, but you know, I don't want them dying because they just can't handle the heat. We're here in Virginia, and sometimes the heat index will get over 100. You know, you have these unexpected things in farming. In hindsight, they've made us better farmers. We've overcome these things. That's what makes us stronger. It's what makes us better at what we do, and knowing not to do these things next time. But at the same time too, in the moment, it's hard, especially when you're counting on this money to fund further operations, to just keep the lights on. So the way we worked this hay baling situation out is we called in. Actually, I called a couple people I knew. Of course, they were tied up, and like I say, everybody's baling hay this time, so it's hard to find help doing that. So we turned to, I'm not a fan of Facebook, but that's where we went. Facebook has groups, and typically within those groups, you can have your city or your county or whatever you're in. And so we went into our local county group forum and just put out a post saying, hey, this is what happened. We did all this. We've got hay that's already windrowed, is ready to be baled. We just need some help baling. Is there anybody out there that's not baling, maybe it's already baled, or that could help us out? We'd be glad to pay you, obviously. And the outpour that we got was amazing. We had a ton of people, and turns out there was a fella a mile down the road who had a 5x5 baler, huge tractor, and he drove his tractor and baler right down here and baled it up. So just going into the numbers, I offered to pay him $20 a bale, or I could pay him by the acre because we weren't sure how many bales we were going to get. And we ended up getting 79 bales off of this 5x5 bales, so good size, off this property. So we paid him about $1,400. Took him maybe 3 or 4 hours, and to me it was totally worth it, because again, I would have, if I had to buy this hay in, I would have had to pay about $4,000. About $50 a bale is what we paid last year to get in hay, and some of those were even 4x5 bales. They weren't 5x5 like we got out of this. So we were so appreciative, and I was totally glad to pay $1,400 to get this stuff baled up, because now we have it. And for $1,400 for 79 bales, again, I can't complain about that. It was about $20 a bale. So it worked out. We did end up spending a little bit. Well, it's going to be probably a lot, because I've got to get the baler fixed as well. And we were actually able to handle that. And this might be something in your area, is there was actually a mobile service that one of my other farmers recommended, and we called them out. They did amazing. They came right out, they got the sprocket off, they went in and cut one of the chains, and they've ordered the parts, and they'll be back next week to actually put the parts on, put the sprocket on, and I don't even have to take the baler anywhere. And you know, as a farmer, that's a lot of work. The New Holland dealership, that's what the baler was, is about an hour from me. So that's a 2-hour trip, probably longer, because I can't drive that fast with the baler on the back. And so the time that this saves, and this guy is very reputable, very reasonably priced by everyone that I've talked to. So we're expecting probably somewhere around $1,000 for labor and parts to get this fixed. But again, $2,400 total that I've spent. I've got 79 bales. Again, I did lose some time with it, but that time again saved some money. So we got these bales for about half price is what this worked out to. And so to me, that's a happy ending. Again, I was worried about having to disted it all. This property is my neighbors behind me. That was a fear that I had, was, you know, I want to make sure they're happy with what I'm doing on their property. This overlooks the river. Again, where these bales are at, this is the river right here. Again, I didn't want their view obscured by this mess of cuttings that I couldn't clean up. So that was another important reason to get this hay baled up, was not only obviously the financial impact on our farm, we needed the hay, but also just to respect their property. Good fences make good neighbors, and they're letting me hay this for free. They just want it cut. So for me, this is a huge deal. For that reason, I wanted it cleaned up and wanted it looking good. And that's how it worked out. What's the main takeaway from this? I think the main takeaway is that farming is just unpredictable. And I don't mean the weather, I don't mean animal deaths. I mean equipment in this case. There's so many things that can go wrong, and it's so easy to sit down and pencil out your operations, what you're gonna do, you know, your cost, and then your income that you're gonna get from that based on your pricing. But I think you gotta add in, you know, a margin of safety for equipment breakdowns, for weather events, for things that you may not think about when you're penciling out these projects. They can derail your projects. You know, when we did hay, I honestly didn't really factor in breaking down equipment. I should have. I think I was so enamored by the numbers and being like, you know, already got the hay equipment for a great deal. We're gonna get this much hay off and it's gonna save us so much money this year, that equipment breakdown just didn't factor in. Live and learn. Now I know I would definitely factor it into all of our projects. Have you had an equipment failure that's costed you a lot of money, that's costed you a project? If so, comment below, let us know. We'd love to hear. These experiences make us better farmers, so I'm sharing a lot of this, hopefully to help you if you have to deal with it. But we love to hear your experiences too, because that helps to make us better farmers. So please share below if you've had anything similar to this, or just an experience where it just went totally wrong, whether you're able to turn it around or not. But just know, in farming, things rarely go to plan. If they don't, just do your best to turn it around. That's it. It was weird reaching out to all these people. Hey, can you come help bale? Hey, I'll pay you. But in the end, I think it worked out great. The gentleman that came and do it got paid well for his time, and it still saved us a ton of money in the long run in hay that we would have had to buy in. Now I could say recommend a video of a couple of our other videos I've got where we lost a calf and some different things, but I'm going to tell you to go watch this video that has a much happier ending.